Hey there everyone, what's up? Back today with more impressions, and today we're going to be talking about a game I was really excited for, and that game is Shadowrun Returns. And I don't have a box because it's a download only title. But Shadowrun Returns was a game that I was super hyped for. It got kickstarted and made a ton of extra money, and they got it all together, and it came out last week. So, of course, I got it immediately. But before then, I even put in some time playing this little gem right here. This is Shadowrun on the Super Famicom or the Super Nintendo. There is also a regular release. And this one right here is actually, it's the weirdest Super Famicom game ever because it's entirely in English, and there's Japanese subtitles for the English subtitles. It's kind of hard to explain. Like, all the text is in English, except somewhere on the screen there'll be Japanese for it. I've never seen a game besides that one like that. It's really interesting. But I'm sure maybe there's others, but I've never played any or seen any. So if anybody knows, comment below. It's kind of a weird thing I'd never seen before, but it really fits the like kind of cyberpunk world of Shadowrun. So it was pretty nice. So I played through that before Shadowrun Returns came out, so I could catch any kind of references to the previous game beforehand, and that was kind of wasted. There weren't actually that many references to the previous game. So, but anyway, we'll get into Shadowrun Returns. So Shadowrun Returns, it's apparently a direct sequel to that Super Nintendo Shadowrun game, and it takes place in the same city, Seattle, and there are some characters that show up. Well, a character that shows up, the main character from the Shadowrun game, shows up in the story of Shadowrun Returns. He's not the main character, though. But let's get into that. The first thing you do in the game is create a character, which is cool. It gives you a lot of options for creating, like, playing the game in the way you want to play it. So I, of course, started the game as a rigger. Riggers are my favorite class in Shadowrun, but it's not important. You can pick whatever class you like. All the classes are viable, and there's actually like various ways you can clear each mission using the skills of different classes. So sometimes there'll be like a hole in the wall and only a drone can fit through, so it's like kind of set up for a rigger. But there will also be, like, in the same quest, so maybe there's a computer you can hack, or maybe there's like a person you can use your high charisma skill on, or whatever. There's a lot of options for each kind of puzzle or way to get through the missions. So it's done really well. But of course, I played as a rigger, but there are a lot of the same character classes as there are in Shadowrun. So you can be a decker, which is like your hacker, your basic hacking class, and a rigger is like a jury rigger. If you've played Cyberpunk, they work with drones and things to they use technology and things to fight instead of fighting themselves, essentially. So and then there's I'm trying to think of what are the other classes: shaman and mage and street samurai. All of those things are different, and I'm like, if you're new to Shadowrun, this might sound weird because I'm talking about all these technology things, and then I just threw in shaman and mage in there. And actually, there are character races, and it's a lot like Dungeons and Dragons, but in a cyberpunk world. So you have, your humans, and then you have elves and orcs and trolls and dwarves you can use as character classes. Plus, you can learn magic, or you can be a computer hacker, or you can be like a kind of cybernetic street samurai, or whatever. It's a pretty cool world. Cyberpunk is cool, but Shadowrun especially is cool because it kind of mixes those fantasy elements. And the game itself, Shadowrun Returns, does a really good job with that. The previous Shadowrun games didn't really give you options for what kind of character you wanted to be. Oh, that's not true. Shadowrun on the Genesis gave you some options, but like only 3 options, and you had to be a human. So, and and in that game, in the end, like, it didn't really matter which class you picked. you could kind of essentially do all the same stuff with whatever character in the end of the game. So it was kind of, like an illusion of choice. Whereas in this game, the choice you make for your character actually does affect the way you play your game and how you get through missions, which is cool. It gives you a lot of more options than the previous games. And, which is understandable because it's new and kind of builds off of what is already there before it. But, I mean, going back, the Super Nintendo Shadowrun game gives you virtually zero options. You have, you have a lot of choices for weapons and armor and cybernetics and stuff and magic, but essentially you have to use all of that if you want to play that game, like, to get through it in a kind of easier way. I mean, I guess you could kind of like not use that stuff in certain cases, but it would be like a major handicap. Whereas in this game, like, if you pick a mage, you probably are going to use a lot of magic, and you probably aren't going to be using cybernetics for obvious reasons. It weakens your magic, and you won't be, if you're a rigger like I was, you're probably not going to be taking magic skills or doing lots of crazy gunplay. You're just not built for it. So you'll be customizing your character for how you want to play the game, which is exactly how you should have a kind of Shadowrun game, which is, a role-playing game. But let's also talk about how it looks. It actually looks really good. I'm actually surprised at how good it looks. The city is really how I think of Shadowrun, actually. It's gritty and dirty, and there's lots of garbage everywhere, and there's like, neon, and it's got a very good feel for a cyberpunk game. And I think like the creators here, Harebrained Schemes, the studio here, has put a really lot of thought into how they put the cities together, like how they designed them. I'm not so much talking about the layout of the cities, but how they look. So there's also the cyber world, the Matrix in this game is pretty cool looking. It's really basic, actually. It's really minimal, but it looks really nice to me. So it's good good on them for that. So it looks really nice. I want to think about how do you play the game? Well, depending on what you're doing, you really have to specialize, is what I'm saying. Like, as a decker, I can't spend all my money getting implants and things and neglect, getting drones, because there is a limited amount of money you can get in the game. There aren't side quests in the sense that, like, there's nothing repeatable where you can run out and get money. There are a few cases where you can do these extra quests and run out and get money, but it's never enough where you can just upgrade, whatever you want. You can't get everything with your character, but there's just not enough enough money or quests to do it. So you have to specialize. You have to pick what you want and kind of specialize in that. And if you try to buy a lot of stuff, you're going to find that at the end of the game, you're not going to have enough money to either buy the stuff you want, or you won't have enough money to hire people to fight with you, which both of those are kind of detriments that would probably make the game pretty difficult. So when I played through, I don't know, I guess just the normal settings. I didn't change anything. So if there are difficulty settings, I didn't change any. But I just played through on normal, and I don't actually know if there's difficulty settings. There might be. But I played through on normal, and I didn't find it very difficult, actually. Most of the battles in the game I got through on the first try. I can think of, there's maybe like 2 battles in the whole game where I died or lost in some way and then had a restart. And almost all of that was like just some stupid mistake, like the one I can think of is there's like a cemetery battle, and the where I positioned my character like just ended up being bad because a whole swarm of guys showed up right behind me, like that. You can't see them on the screen, so it was kind of just unlucky. Um, and I died. And if the main character dies, you lose, so you have to restart. But I didn't have to do any battle more than twice, and most, almost like 90%, you could get through on the first try with no problems. It's not an incredibly difficult game, but it's fun. It's not incredibly difficult, but it's not. That's not to say it's not challenging in some points, and it's not like too easy. It's just not incredibly difficult. So I think that maybe the the difficulty is kind of spot on for most people. And I find that playing the game, it was kind of nostalgic because you do have you do have Jake Armitage, the character from the first game, and he does, the first time you meet him, he pops out of like a kind of morgue slab, and it's kind of like really reminiscent of how the original one starts. And he shows up occasionally in the game, so that's pretty cool. And then like there's Maria Mercurial is in the game. She's like one of the singer, like she's kind of a major point in the SNES game, or the Super Famicom, if you're like me. In that game, she's like a singer in the game, and she shows back up in this game as in the same capacity. She's not, you never talk to her or anything. She's just kind of there, but she does show up. And let me explain how the game works. It's mostly like a kind of isometric RPG. That's like the best way to explain it. It takes me back to like my PC days of the mid to late 90s, which is like all I played was isometric RPGs. Something like the original Fallout is not like a terrible comparison to how the normal game plays. You kind of go around picking up items, solving kind of puzzles. And they're not really puzzles, they're kind of slightly puzzles in the game where you'll find an item and you have to find a way to open a safe or something. And then there's usually dialogue options you can get around going through missions or talking to people. So that kind of stuff is very RPG-like. There's a lot of dialogue. There's lots of dialogue and like selecting dialogue options. And then you'll go into kind of scripted battles. So you go into a battle and these characters will show up and you have to fight a battle. And the very basic battle system is it's similar to, I want to say, XCOM. Like the way you have kind of movement points, and the clicking is, it's very basically like XCOM, except I think the characters have a bit more health, so it's not like dangerous like XCOM. If your other characters die, it's not like a huge loss, and usually they won't die. I don't think I almost ever had anybody else die. I think the most I ever lost in a battle, besides the one where the main character was killed for something stupid, was like I lost a drone once. It's not incredibly painful, but you will. It plays like XCOM if your characters had a lot more options, or a lot, because you'll be able to hire mages and stuff, and they'll have magic, or you'll have 2 drones you can use that are like 2 extra characters almost, or you can have like your kind of decked out street samurai who is like impervious to damage or whatever. It's you have a lot of options, and it's kind of like it's not as hard as XCOM would be in terms of battle, but the real basic level of it is pretty similar. It's less strategic though. You don't have the same kind of level of kind of care about where you're moving your characters. In XCOM, like if you get hit once or twice, like you're either really hurt or dead. And in this game, you can get hit like a lot of times, and you can heal, and you can use magic to heal, and you can use kits to heal, and you can even resurrect characters that get killed in battle. So you can use kind of like dock wagons to resurrect them with even full health sometimes, which makes it even easier than healing in some cases, which kind of makes the game that much easier. It's not as difficult as something like XCOM if you've played it. Um, so the game, let's see, the game comes with a basic story. I think they're banking on like people making user created content for it. So there is an editor you can use to play the game, and but the main story, if you just want to play through it, it took me about 20 hours. But I think if you're not as thorough as I am, like you're not going to run to every corner of the map and talk to every single person and try to do every option and do the absolute story parts absolutely last. You could probably do it much quicker than I did. I'm really thorough in this type of game, so like if I see if I see the objective where I'm supposed to go, I'll purposely avoid it and explore every inch of the map before I go there, just in case I'm missing something. And sometimes you can find some kind of like side missions and stuff in this game, but it's a lot of my exploration didn't really pan out to something. But sometimes it did, so I feel it's kind of justified. That's how I play these games. Actually, I'm just kind of like an obsessive explorer in these types of things. But this kind of game, the story was, it's relatively interesting actually. It's a very Shadowrun story, I'd say. The story is interesting in the sense that like it starts off with lots of kind of fighting gangs or doing some hacking and stuff like that. It's very cyberpunk, and then like the second half kind of takes this turn for the very cyberpunk slash magic monsters kind of thing that could only happen in Shadowrun, which it does give you a very like, yeah, they kind of get how Shadowrun works instead of just being a straight up cyberpunk story, which I actually used to play the cyberpunk pen and paper RPG, Cyberpunk 2020 actually, and we played Shadowrun also, but this is Shadowrun Second Edition. I believe this game is actually built on the Shadowrun 4th Edition rules, so I'm not actually familiar with some of the stuff that was in this game. It's not the same as Second Edition is. So obviously it's like 2 editions past. Like I used to play Dungeons and Dragons Second Edition too, but I don't even recognize 4th Edition. It's like not even something I know how to play at this point. So, and I'd say like they understand the Shadowrun world, at least with the story, and it does give you that sense. So if you've played Shadowrun and you like Shadowrun, you'll like this game and you'll like the story because it's very genuinely Shadowrun, which is something I appreciate. And I don't know, I'm trying to think of some other stuff to say about this game. I know this video is already long, and all my videos like this end up being long, but this was a game I was really excited for, and I'm glad it turned out as well as it did. It's $20 now. If you were a backer, it was cheaper. It was $15, so that was good. And if you were a backer, you could get it DRM free instead of using Steam. But if you're unfortunate and you didn't back this game, you will have to use Steam, or I think that's the only way to buy it right now. Which unfortunate, because I wouldn't want to recommend you use Steam, but it's your only option at this point, so you probably have to if you want to play this. Or I believe there's an iOS release, maybe? If there is, you could probably do that. But I'm not actually sure if that's true or not, or if it's not out yet, or if it's out and I haven't looked. I haven't looked, obviously, but if there is an option, if that's an option, like maybe you can get it that way. But it's definitely worth it. It's worth it anyway. It's $20 now. It's totally worth $20. I'd pay $20 for it on Steam. And if you use Steam, you can download all the user-created content that other people are making through Steam. I'm sure you can download user-created content on the DRM-free version, but it's not as easy. You have to find a place where people are posting it, I guess. But I guess that's what I'll be doing. But yeah, for Steam, it's on Steam. So I don't know. I'm gonna end this video because it's already 20 minutes, and I'll just drone on about this forever because I really enjoyed this game. It's really good. I'm gonna go back to playing it again right after I finish this video with a new character type. So if that tells you anything, I'm gonna be playing through it probably at least 2 more times. I want to try out a melee character, and I want to try out a magic user, just to see how they work in the game. I mean, beyond like what I used as people I hired in the game. So I want to try out using my own kind of custom build, which is, one of the good things about the game is that it's very open to giving you kind of your own customization. And of course, there will be user-created content. So, and there's actually also a for backers, you got the Berlin download, which is also not available. It's not actually. I don't think you can buy it either. I think it's only for backers of the game on Kickstarter. Got the Berlin DLC, but there's going to be more DLC in the future, and plus all the user created content. So it's definitely worth having. $20, definitely worth it. And what can I say? Usually I live in Japan. I mostly play Japanese games, but this is the kind of game that I couldn't pass up. Shadowrun is something I really enjoy, and I'm glad this game came out. I'm glad it got kickstarted, and I'm glad it's doing so well. So, yeah, play Shadowrun Returns. It's good stuff. I guess I'll talk to you guys next time.